Hi, welcome to Essential Money Talks, the 20th episode. Yes, it's been 20 episodes. And so if you have missed out on the other 19, feel free to go and check those out. They're also on my YouTube channel. So today we have a special guest. And so I'm going to have him introduce himself, and I'm going to have some special guests come on. In the past, we've had happy spenders who share their experience from going from money stress to money success. But I also want to bring guests in to just give us a bit of financial literacy, because as I work with people, unfortunately, whatever your expertise is that you are in, we tend to think that everybody else we're talking to understands the terminology and everything about that, because to you, it's just so you just know it. But for someone else, they may be totally illiterate in that, and that's okay. It's not their fault, because unless someone actually taught them and didn't assume they knew it, then so that's why I got my guest on today, is to help us understand very basically what he does and how he can help you in your financial journey. Because we have, this whole financial journey we're going on and start from when we, got our first job. And so we need to have those basics that really can make our journey more enjoyable. So I would like to introduce Kris from Sharon Partners. And so I will have him take over and just tell a little bit about himself, and go for it.
Sure. Thanks, Sherry. Thank you very much for having me on. It's great to be chatting to you this morning about one of my passions, financial literacy, and I suppose a little bit about financial advice in general. A little bit about me. I suppose I am relatively new to the financial services space. So I've been working in this field for about 4, going on close to 5 years now. But prior to that, my previous career, it seemed like a lifetime ago now, was actually as a community pharmacist. And I did that for many, many years and did really enjoy it. But I reached a stage where I really realized that wasn't where my passion was. My passion was in finance. And I suppose that kind of goes back to my childhood, my upbringing, my exposures to money, and that really shaped me as a child. And that's why I decided to follow that about halfway through my working life and make a bit of a switch. Had to go back to uni. I did some further studies, gained a master's in financial planning, went through a professional year program, which all new financial planners have to do, sat the FASI exam, got accredited, and then now I'm working as a financial planner. And honestly, I've got zero regrets. I love what I do. I love partnering with people on their journey towards financial freedom, I suppose, and seeing them achieve those goals. And look, that's one of the things that I really loved in pharmacy, in terms of having those long-term relationships with my patients and being able to still have that aspect in the way I deal with my clients now is a really big part of why I enjoy what I do. So I've taken what I really loved about pharmacy and applied it into a field that I'm a lot more passionate about, and having a lot of fun and just really enjoying seeing people achieve their financial and lifestyle goals, I suppose. I don't know if I want to go back right to my childhood, but that's kind of a brief synopsis of how I got to where I am now.
Yeah, and we'll go there. When I was before I got married, I worked in a pharmacy and I loved it. Yeah. I loved that interaction, and you'd get to know, all the regulars. I have to say that in the pharmacy I worked, one of my jobs was to cook the Otis Spunkmeyer cookies, which is kind of like Mrs. Fields cookies. So every day we had hot smelling cookies, and sometimes it wouldn't even get to the oven because I would eat the dough. But I love that. And that's so true. You're there helping them physically. I mean, our greatest assets in life are our health And the next best asset in life is our financial literacy on money.
Yep.
Because if we can get our money right in life, it affects every aspect of your life. And unfortunately, we kind of see the reverse, where some people who really don't have their financial life in check and it's very stressful, that actually leads them to poor health.
100%.
And so it's really important to have your personal health as well as your financial health, because that will just open up so many doors on your journey and not, hopefully avoid some of those dead ends on your journey.
You're not wrong there, Sherry. And it can transcend into so many different parts of your life. When you have financial stress, it affects your relationships, it affects what's happening in your family dynamic. And as you say, your mental health and your physical health suffers as well. So yeah, you're 100% right. If you can get that part right, it does often flow up to improving all aspects of your life as well.
Yes. I always say money makes your world go round, or it makes it go pear-shaped. And, that's right. It affects so many areas, and relationships are a huge one. The increasing divorce rate and all of that. And I work with some couples who are coming back from that, or some are heading there, and money is such a big thing. And that then affects their health, their mental health, which just, and so every little piece in our life's journey is so important. And so we're going to educate you today on how you can better improve your financial literacy, thinking long term, because that's where society wants you to kind of think the here and now. You deserve it now, buy now, pay later. And so we're just all stuck in the here and the now, and then wonder and play the victim when in the future we find, why am I here? I thought I would be somewhere else by this age. And so financial literacy is the key, and to get that early, because we aren't taught it in school.
100%.
And so we need to be proactive and do that. So I want you to share what were your first memories of money, and why you kind of got that love as a young person.
Okay. Going, I suppose, all the way back, I was quite fortunate in my upbringing, and not fortunate in the sense that we had a lot of money, but fortunate in what I was taught about money. And I was taught the value of money quite early. My parents were quite frugal and very careful about the way they managed their money, I suppose, and that naturally rubbed off onto me. And the other thing that was good, even though they didn't have a lot of money, my parents loved to learn about it, and my dad in particular. So he was always reading books, and he encouraged me to do so myself. And one of my earliest memories about money was probably when my dad offered me an incentive of about $20 to read a book by a fairly well-known financial advisor or financial expert back then. This is going back, probably about 30 years, I would say, by Noel Whittaker. The book was called Making Money Made Simple. And he said, look, if you read this book, I'll give you $20. And that's all it was. And for me, that was a fortune at that age. And I gave it a crack. And I don't even pretend that I understood everything that was being said, but it certainly introduced some core concepts to me, particularly about saving, about the benefits of long-term compounding, and about being disciplined, I suppose, and what investing could do over a long period of time. So those things I took away from reading that book at a very early age, and it really stuck with me. And I suppose beyond that, the fact that, I had magazines and newspapers around me and was reading those things, but Dad took a step that was probably foundational to why I'm where I am right now. And that was in my late teens. He decided to start a share market investing club with him and some of his friends and family. And that was primarily to just learn about how the share market operates, what it does, and have a bit of fun. It was a bit of a social thing. And then, if we made some money along the way, that was a bonus. And it just started with a group of sort of, I think it was maybe 10 or so of us and his closer sort of friends. And we'd meet once a month and discuss the markets, learn. There'd always be an educational piece of the components as we were learning what research is, learning our way around balance sheets and all those sort of things. And just in general, what investing was all about. And that, I think, was what really kind of instilled the drive and the passion, I think, to, what I eventually did was follow a career in this space. I think in hindsight, it looks obvious that I should have done that from the start, when I had all these influences and I had a love for it. And I acknowledge that I really enjoyed it. But for some reason at school, I was always really good at science and health. And, I kind of felt drawn to that pathway and followed that down to become a pharmacist. But, eventually you do realize that, some things aren't quite a perfect fit, and you want to really be passionate about what you do. As much there were certainly aspects about pharmacy that I loved, it wasn't my passion. And I've said this to a number of times. I might have said it to you before, Sherry, that if I wasn't working in the medical field, I'd never pick up a medical journal to read for fun. There was no way I would do that. Yet every day I was reading the Australian Financial Review. I was subscribing to those investing magazines, and obviously I've been investing in the share market since I was a teenager. So, the passion has always been there. But yeah, certainly having parents that encourage the conversation about money, having examples who showed that you shouldn't be frivolous with it and be careful about how you spend it, and having parents that were frugal, I suppose, has definitely rubbed off on me. That's kind of shaped me to be where I am now, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's so important. And when I work with people, once I teach them, I say, you have to teach your kids. It is so important. And as parents, we have so much influence over our children, especially when they're young, because they just want to be like us. I know for me, I help my kids get a love for music. And so in the car, we would listen to classical music because that's what I loved, because it was very soothing. And now with my grandchildren, I do that. And with my grandchildren, I'm teaching them about money. And so it's all those things that you're taught when you're a child. You usually, even if you go a different path, you usually will always come back to that. And so that, your thing is a perfect example. And sometimes we have to go off on this road to realize that this definitely is the road we want. Where if we go off on one road, we might always wonder. And so I really believe that wherever we go in life is where you're supposed to go, and you will eventually get to where you want. I just want to welcome, we have some watchers here, GB and V and Reg and Maya and Famia. So if anyone has any questions that they want to ask Kris, put them in the comments, and we will endure to get those answered. So what I want to do is just start from the very basics, and I'm talking the very basics. What is a financial advisor?
Sure. And I suppose it can be different things to different people, depending on where you're at in your life and what you need. But our role, it does change as people progress through their financial journey. So at a very, very early stage, I suppose, what we are is an educator and teaching people about different aspects of the financial industry, I suppose, how your finances should be managed, what it is to have a budget or a cash flow, and it's as simple as tracking or knowing where your money is going, and obviously that's what you spend a lot of your time doing, Sherry, and that's your expertise, to understanding how superannuation works, what investing is, what's the benefit of compounding, and all of those sort of things over a long period of time. And then moving away from sort of wealth creation, it's also the wealth protection piece. So making sure people understand how to protect what they already have, whether that's through insurance or having a nice cash buffer, and an emergency fund, I suppose, just in case something comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So I think first and foremost, we're educators. And then beyond that, I suppose we help people to make decisions that are in line with their long-term goals and aspirations. So, it's all about, we're not saying you should do this, do that, and just, it's not a one size fits all cookie cutter approach to investing or whatever it is that we're trying to do for the client. It's really about just meeting their needs and making sure that they can achieve their goals. And it's very individual. So it's very much all about where they see themselves and how comfortable they are in taking certain steps to get there. And some people are comfortable with taking higher levels of risk, for example, which means they're prepared to take a lot of volatility in their approach, and some people aren't. So it's just about having those conversations, making sure people understand that there can be sometimes a bit of a trade-off between what levels of volatility or risk you're prepared to take and the levels of returns that you might get over a longer period of time. And so it's often about having chats about their behavior and in my opinion, how people behave when it comes to money is probably more important than what they know and their intellectual ability when it comes to money. So the behavior is definitely really important. So we're there as kind of coaches and guides and, as I said before, educators to help them along that journey.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different sort of aspects and moving parts to bring it all together. So it's kind of hard to really just summarize what is a financial advisor, but I think the key thing is we're whatever our clients need us to be, that's what we are, to help them achieve their financial goals.
Yeah, I think that just the word advisor is, you're advising them, you're not telling them. There's not just one way. You're looking at their situation, and it's a long-term thing. I know, we've all heard of goal setting. And the way that I like to do the goal setting in my business is start at the end result.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to say when I'm 70 years old? What I want people to say about me or about my business or the people I've helped? What do I want then? Then start creating stepping stones that leads to that. And I think that's where, I was guilty thinking that a financial advisor, you only go to them when you're, you have lots and lots of money or you're close to retirement. We're really at that stage. It's not that it's too late, but if you would go and see an advisor so much earlier, then you don't have to take maybe those higher risks things because you have time on your hands.
100%. Yeah. And time, I think when it comes to wealth creation, time is probably the biggest factor, the biggest ingredient. If you have time, you can, as you say, start small and you'll see this snowball effect that will just, Einstein, I believe it was, called it the eighth wonder of the world when it comes to compounding. So compound interest, and it needs time to work. So if you have time on your hands, you're doing yourself.
You have more options too.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have a question. Well, one was, when did Kris decide to be a financial advisor? Which you kind of did share that it was something that you loved, finances, as a child. And then, so how many years did you work as a pharmacist?
I worked as a pharmacist for about 14 years.
Okay.
So a
you
very long time.
I take it you have a family, so that
I've got a wife, 2 kids, young kids, and I remember breaking the news to my wife that, you know what, I think I want to switch careers and go down a different path. And I'm very fortunate in that she was really supportive. I mean, obviously a little bit shocked in the beginning, but she's always known that this is kind of something I've been very interested in. So she wasn't, taken completely by surprise, but
Yeah.
it is a big decision, especially when you've done something as long as I have. And I did enjoy aspects of pharmacy. So don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I hated going to work every day, but I just knew it wasn't my ideal profession. So
Go ahead. I remember my husband, he was 30 and he wanted to change. He's in electrical engineering, and he wanted to become an accountant. And he thought, oh, I'm too old. And I said, no, and I was there saying, yeah, I'll support you.
Yeah.
And he never did. But yeah, to any listeners out there, you're never too old to change your career. I've just met someone who she's 67 years old and she's starting a business at 67. So I went back to university at the age 50, and I thought I was too old until I talked to a friend, and she goes, I was 70 when I went back to university. So follow your dreams, and that will actually make you probably live longer, because if you're following your passion, it's going to give you better health. You're going to be all that. And so that's excellent. There's another question. Do you believe, or at least your take on high risk or high reward mentality? Look,
that's personally, and I think it's because of my understanding in terms of, I know how being prepared to accept high levels of volatility will generally mean I'll be rewarded with higher levels of returns over a long period of time. And I know that I have a fairly long period of time before I'm going to be, needing to rely on this money as an income until I retire. At the moment, I've got, I'm working and I'm earning, and I've got income coming in that I can live off. So any money that I am investing, I'm able to take a little bit of a higher risk approach with it. But that's not for everyone. So it really comes down to an individual situation, one, where you are at your life in terms of your life stage and how long you have till you're going to have to start drawing back on some of that money. I suppose, two, do you have any other uses of that money in the shorter term? So if you see yourself in 2 years or 3 years having to use that money for something, for example, like a house purchase, then you really can't afford to see that capital value depreciate and decrease too much, in which case it doesn't make sense to take a lot of risk with it, and you should be looking for a more conservative approach. And probably more importantly is, what are you comfortable with as an individual, as a person? What level of risk is too much and is going to help, or it's going to prevent you from sleeping comfortably at night? And that's a really important question. So even if you have a huge time frame and you don't have any immediate needs for the money, and you can see that you've got decades till you're going to have to rely on that income, or the money that you're investing, if it's going to keep you up at night thinking about what's happening, or if the slightest drop in the valuation gets you upset or panicked or stressed, then that's not the right investment approach for you. So it's a matter of understanding all of those things, and then I suppose developing a strategy that takes all those factors into consideration.
Yeah. Well, we said, he goes, it still boils down to the knowledge and your tolerance of risks.
Exactly right.
And so, yeah, and you have to think about your physics. So look at how you handle stress, high stress, or whatever risk in other areas of your life. And again, going back to health, how does that affect your health? And so that will help you to determine on what level of risk you'll go in your finances. And as a spending planner, I teach people that you have to take care of your family first. you make sure that all the finances that you need to cover, you know, your basic things is important. You know, there's a saying, there, no success can compensate for failure in the home. And so we need to make sure before we start going and investing and doing things that might be of high risk, we need to make sure that we have a home overhead, or we have all those funds protected to take care of that first. We never want to put our family at risk, you know, and so we need to know those important numbers so that you can, put your family first. Yes. Thank you for the questions. And if there's any more, feel free to bring them on. So what age is the ideal age to see a financial advisor?
Oh, there is no ideal age, Sherry. And I think anybody, and I've got clients who are older and retirees, and you know, basically looking to just make their retirement funds last as long as possible. And it's all about maximizing Centrelink and a few other things there, I suppose, for them. And then I've got really young clients who have just graduated uni, entered the workforce for the first time, and are just getting started on their financial journey. I don't think there's any age. It's really, if you're never going to lose anything by having a chat to a financial advisor. I mean, you may not be in a position where, you know, I'm conscious that certain financial advisors or certain firms might have minimums in terms of the types of clients they take on and whatnot. But most financial advisors are happy to offer some sort of general guidance or information for free, and we'll have a chat to you in any case. And that's certainly I'm more than happy to do. You know, I'll spend time and have a little bit of a chat to someone, and you know, even if it's not, I suppose, something that we can work on as a client advisor relationship from a perspective that makes sense commercially, there's still going to be the ability to pass on information and knowledge and point people in the right direction, regardless of their situation. And, you know, there's a lot of people do that work for free. There's some pro bono work that people do as well. And, you know, I kind of really enjoy just talking to people in general. So every time I have that initial chat, because we always have those first chats with people at no cost. And for me, it's about providing as much value as I can to that client for their time, and hoping to improve that situation regardless of what happens going forward. It's just about making a difference with that initial conversation. But as we talked about earlier, the earlier you get started, the easier it is in the long run. So it's like planting a tree. The best time to plant a tree is today. And, you know, the only time better than that would have been 10 years ago. It's the same thing for investing. So have a chat as soon as you can, as soon as you feel, I think once you're earning and you're in the workforce, it's probably a good time to start having a chat about a few things. There's certain things like protecting your income and your ability to earn that a lot of people don't think about. Because often at a young age, your biggest asset is your ability to continue to earn. You. And if something was to happen to you that impacted your ability to earn, that's really going to impact your goals and financial aspirations going forward. So it's really important from an earlier age to start thinking about those things. So I would encourage every young person out there to have a chat with a financial advisor to at least talk about how to protect their biggest asset, which is themselves.
Yes. And I just lost my thought, but when you're young, you need to ask lots of questions, and there's so much free information out there. And don't be embarrassed to ask questions. I was the kid at school that always asked the question. Now, I at first thought, oh, if I do that, they're going to think I'm dumb, but I would ask it. And then students would come up to me after, thank you for asking that question. I needed to know that. So I ask questions. And so, yeah, ask questions. There is no dumb questions. I've had, people ask me, what is equity? And they have a home loan. What is compounding interest? And they have a credit card. Unfortunately, sometimes we just, experts think that you know it. So don't ever be afraid to ask those very, very basic questions, because whenever anyone asks me those very basic questions, I commend them. Good on you. Because, not understanding a simple financial concept can cost you thousands and thousands in your life. And so, yeah, I think I would totally advise going to a financial planner as soon as you get a job, just if nothing else, to understand superannuation and what things you can do so that you can, of course, your employer contributes a certain amount, but to understand that you can put more in and how much you can put more in, so that you might maybe not look at your lifestyle and have that in mind, so that, think that long term. Because retirement should be a time of no financial stress. And I know that I've worked with retirees who were feeling stressed. One actually had to go back to work because realized that he wasn't going to have enough. Another one had enough, just needed a plan to make sure that it lasted. Yeah. Just because you retire doesn't mean you automatically, because you have money coming in without working, that you're going to be good with that money.
Exactly. And, even if people are retiring in their mid 60s or early 70s, with people living longer and longer and the improvements in health and technology, you could still have 30, 35 years ahead of you that you need to make that money last. So, and that's definitely on the minds of a lot of people as they are approaching that retirement. Will they have enough funds to see them through those years? And what sort of lifestyle are they going to be able to lead? So it is really important to a lot of people. And the earlier you start thinking about it, the easier it is to make sure you do have that comfortable lifestyle during that phase of your life.
Yeah. And I remember when my husband and I went, they say, where do you want to kind of be? And they did the same thing. Where do you want to be? What kind of lifestyle do you want in retirement? You give them that information. They help you with asking lots of questions, and then they can start to put the stepping stones and advise what stepping stones you need to do now that will allow you to get there in the future.
Exactly right.
So I have a basic question.
Yep.
What is the difference between a financial advisor and a financial planner?
Yes, so that's an interesting one. There actually is no difference, at least not in Australia. I'm not sure if there is any difference in other parts of the world, but those two words, phrases, I suppose, can be used interchangeably. So financial planner, financial advisor. To be able to call yourself either of those, you have to meet certain standards, and you have to be qualified and be registered. So, there's really no difference at all. So if you see someone that says there's a financial planner and then someone says they're a financial advisor, there isn't a difference in the level of qualifications or ability or skill or certain things that person can advise on and certain things that the other person cannot. So quite interchangeable, no difference.
Yeah. So, if you think about financial, we all know what financial, that means money. A planner. So if you put a planner and an advisor and to help you create a plan, that's basically what you do is, see where they're at, see where they want to go, advise them on their different options, and then help them create a plan. Would that be correct?
Yeah, exactly right. Yep. And the plan is never set and forget. It's always something that needs to be reviewed as people progress through their lives and the situation changes, and life can always throw some massive curveballs at you, which means the plan needs to be adjusted accordingly. So you create a plan, but it's also about the journey and working on that plan throughout every client's progress as they go down that road.
That's right. Because it is a journey. It's not all about the destination. we are here to have joy
Yeah.
in the journey. And so that's really important to make sure that you fit that into your plan, because unfortunately, some people never even make it to retirement. And if they procrastinate it, well, I'll be happy then, or I'll be able to do things then, or I'll go on my first holiday then that, and so we have to use our money to be a vehicle to get us what we want in the future, but also now and along the way.
Absolutely. That's a great point, Sherry. And I think that's one thing that I probably had to make some changes with in terms of my personal situation. I've sort of always been very much about putting away for the future and less about what's happening now. Whereas my wife, Marshy, has always been, I wouldn't say she's always been, but she really has, due to her experiences, she lost both her parents quite young. And so she understands there's no guarantee of tomorrow. So we both had to sort of find a common ground there and make some adjustments to our thought process, where we're like, well, she was kind of like, I do want to enjoy today. And I understand that we need to save for tomorrow as well, but I do want to enjoy today. And I was kind of, I can forego a lot of things today to see that I have a better life tomorrow. But we've really kind of, I suppose, both had to find this in between. And we're both there now. And I think it's really important to be able to have some flexibility there and understand that life is a journey, not just a destination. And you want to enjoy it while you're there for the ride, I suppose.
Exactly. And too, when your kids are young, they're only young ones, and they're kind of cheap to take on holidays when they're young. As they get to teenagers, it's a bit more expensive to take them on a holiday. And so, but yeah, to always not live, well, when this happens, then I'll be happy. We have to find the happiness in the here and now.
100%.
And your money you're in control. You need to be 100% in control of your money. And so that you can get what you really want. And planning is the number one thing in that. And that's my specialty, is I help people plan, look long-term, what are you wanting to do? Let's plan for it, save for it, and then happily spend. So thank you, Kris. It's been lovely talking to you and getting to know you better and to helping educate the listeners. So yeah, I highly recommend everyone to seek out, and we'll put the links below of Kris's contact details. He's in Brisbane. If you want to get and contact him and have that free session, again, ask questions, and that will help you make what's best for you. So thank you again, Kris. Appreciate your time. And thank you for listening to the 20th episode of Essential Money Talks. And we will be back again next Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. Brisbane time. And until then, choose financial peace. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.